Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura or Maddie, and today I'm reading chapter 27 of #Murder Trending by Gretchen McNeil. Let's get right into it. How much time do we have left? Dee asked, scrambling to her feet. Ethan glanced at his watch. 2.5 minutes. Shit. Dee stepped over a severed foot, still in its black Mary Jane, and peeked around the edge of the wall, fully expecting the missing sister to leap out at her from the shadows. Instead, she saw that the hotel hallway, abruptly ended at two double doors that opened into the next room. We have to hurry. On it, Ethan put one foot on the inert fire extinguisher and wrenched the axe out of the canister. Now I have a machine gun. Ho ho ho. That's not a machine gun. Ethan rolled his eyes. It's from Die Hard. His favorite. Of course it is. The doors opened into a massive space spanning the full 3 stories that Dee had seen from the outside. The walls were pale yellow. The fluorescents were so bright they stung her eyes, and even as she blinked against the painful light, she saw the tank in the middle of the room. They'd made it. The water was near the top, less than a foot from the lid that the Hardy girls had padlocked into place. Nyles and Griselda had kicked off their shoes and managed to free themselves from the rope. They were treading water, their faces just barely visible above the waterline. The camera, a massive hooded creature like the kind used on movie and television shoots, stood on a tripod across the room. But as much as Dee wanted to watch Ethan take his axe to the wretched thing, they didn't have time. "Ethan," she cried, pointing to the tank. "Break the glass." "On it." He raced forward, axe raised above his head, and brought the head down against the side of the tank with all his strength. A teeny tiny dent appeared in the glass. "Shit," Ethan said. "Keep at it," Dee instructed. "I'll try to kill the water." Ethan wailed away on the side of the tank while Dee crouched beside the thick fireman's hose. It looked as if it should be unscrewed easily, but the metric shit ton of water surging through its thick fibers made the hose impossibly heavy. Dee tried to twist the end, but the water pressure kept the docking mechanism firmly in place. Maybe Ethan could get it to budge, but he managed to open the dent into a large crack, but it hadn't broken through the tank just yet. Dee started to call him over, but the words never made it out of her mouth. As she looked up, she found Nyles's face in front of hers. He was submerged, his dirty blonde hair swirling around his narrow features, and he was pointing furiously at something behind Dee. She was still processing Nyles' warnings when she saw a reflection in the glass. Just a momentary flash of shiny metal against the thick tank wall as the surviving Hardy sister brought down her axe, aiming straight for Dee's head. Dee had a split second to react. She dove forward over the hose and felt the rush of air as the blade missed her by inches. But it didn't miss the hose. The momentum of the Hardy girl severed it clean in half. The massive canvas hose flopped onto the floor like a snake whose head had been cut off. It slithered away, gushing water onto the concrete. More importantly, without its fuel source, the tank began to drain, which was awesome for Niles and Griselda, who were only inches away from being completely submerged. Not as awesome for Dee, who was now cornered by the hardy girl. "You killed my sister," she said in the sing-song voice from the Grady Girls impression. She said, the sing-song voice from the Grady Girls impression, totally abandoned. Dee slid back, arms and legs slipping in the thin layer of water that coated the floor. "Ethan!" she screamed, but he was still swinging away against the glass tank and didn't seem to hear her over the rush of water and the cracking of safety glass. "No one's going to help you now, Cinderella survivor." She raised the axe over her head. 100 million spikes coming my way. Dee raised her arm in front of her face, expecting to feel the blade split into her skin. Instead, she heard a thud, and then the hardy girl staggered sideways. Her axe clattered to the floor, and she collapsed into a pile. Eyes open, her head at an unnatural angle. Behind her, fire extinguisher in hand, was Mira. "Oh my god! Yay!" It took some work to get Niles and Griselda out of the tank. Ethan finally managed to break through the thick, double-paned glass, but it didn't shatter. Instead, a spiderweb of cracks spread outward from the epicenter of Ethan's blows. It was like a car windshield in an accident, but he used the axe blade to wrench bits of the pain away until there was a space large enough for Niles and Griselda. He hooked the axe through a belt loop on his pants, and he lifted Griselda to safety. "Don't I get a thank you kiss?" he asked. "If by kiss you mean punch," she nailed him in the shoulder, "then yes." "Damn, girl." Ethan dropped her and rubbed his shoulder. "That's the last time I save your life." Niles tossed their shoes out of the tank, then tried to haul himself through the hole. He had to contort his long, thin body in order to fit, rotating his hips to the point where he was flopped on his back, stuck. "A little help here?" Ethan looped his arms around Niles' torso and dragged him to safety, breaking off a giant chunk of double pane in the process. He then spun Niles around in a circle, his legs flaring like a kite's tail while water droplets sprayed the room, before placing him back on his feet. "Do you want a thank you kiss from me as well?" Niles asked. Ethan held up his hands. Ethan held up his hand. "Nah, I only like hot dudes." Niles wrinkled his upper lip while he wiped bits of crumbled glass from his soaking wet pajama bottoms. "Can someone tell me what in the bloody hell just happened?" "You, me, death averted," Griselda replied. But Niles wasn't listening. The ambassador will hear about this. "I have diplomatic immunity." "Wait," Ethan cried, holding up both his hands. Niles looked confused. "Huh?" Ethan crouched in front of him, his right hand forming a gun aimed at Niles. Say it again." "Say what?" "The same thing you say like 20 times a day." Niles tilted his head to the side. "That I have diplomatic immunity?" Bam! Ethan pretended to fire the gun. It's just been revoked. Nyles turned to Dee. Any idea what he's talking about? Dee couldn't help but laugh. It's one of his action movies, I think. Ethan blew on his finger gun like he was putting out a candle. Lethal Weapon 2. I've been waiting months for someone to try and kill you so I could use that line. You realize how disturbed you sound, right now? Nyles said. You realize how disturbed you sound right now, Nyles said. Yes? Ethan sighed, bliss radiating from every pore. That was better than a kiss. Thank you, dude. Can we get out of here? Dee turned around and the laughter died on her lips. Mira still stood over the hardy girl she'd killed, staring down at her with unblinking eyes. She looked shaky, as if about to vomit or pass out, or both. What the hell is she doing here? Griselda asked as she wrung water from the hem of her skirt. Though the words had Griselda's usual hard edge, her face was paler than usual. It was the closest thing Dee had seen to fear from her coworker. This is Mira, Dee said quickly, rushing to her side. My neighbor. She used to work at the bodega, Ethan added. I know who she is, Griselda snapped, but why is she here, now? Dee smiled. She's the only one who knew where to find you guys. Nyles was immediately interested. How? Mira blinked, pulling her eyes away from the hardy girl. Her pale skin was drained of all color. The hardy girls always used the same location, she began. I compared old photos of structures on the island until you found one that was similar in size, Nyles interjected, finishing her thought. He spoke quickly, obviously excited, and then cross-referenced that with the historical records until you found a perfect match. Yeah. Mira said, I used to study the postman's killers all the time. You know, before... Not weird at all, Griselda said sarcastically. But instead of being intimidating, Mira appraised Griselda like a doctor examining a patient. I thought it might come in handy if I ever ended up in here. And since that information just saved our lives, Nyles exclaimed, I say, well done! He grabbed Mira's hand and pumped it up and down vigorously. An absolute brilliant execution of the scientific method. We helped too, Ethan said. Yes, of course. He shook Ethan's hand and then grabbed Dee and hugged her tightly. I really do appreciate it. Dee felt the heat rising to her cheek as Nyles released her. You'd have done the same for me. You sure about that, princess? But if she was honest with herself, she probably wasn't sure that Nyles or Ethan or Griselda would have come to her aid. She wasn't sure if her actions made her a better person or just incredibly stupid. Yes, she said, meeting Griselda's cool gaze. Yes, I am. The comments! Yay! Okay. Bozy J. At Red Snow 1, Red Snow 2. Okay. Can someone just explain to me how Andrew, Claire, Brian, Bender, and Allison just took out both of the Hardy girls? Hashtag hunting the hunters. Hashtag not my postman. Those are not their names at all. Nicola Tescula commented, I feel like the At Hardy girls were victims of sticking to theme. While I appreciate the trikes and axes, though the double drowning was meh, taking some creative license might have ended differently. Hashtag not spike worthy. Hashtag even in death. Hashtag not my postman. Benny Ada Jets commented, I'm surprised the conspiracy theory nut jobs haven't weighed in on this one yet. Hashtag don't trust those. Hashtag don't trust those who don't trust the feed. Hashtag come play with us. And then Ellen Enchanted commented at Red Snow 1, at Red Snow 2. Who? That's what I said. I was like, those aren't their names. they just went, who? Extreme Giants fan commented, where's the edited replay? At the postman PEI usually has them up by now. And then Bozy J responded to Ella Enchanted with The Breakfast Club. The Griff commented, and if you remember, Griff is the one that is like this is all fake. Emergency. Sources tell me something is wrong over at the at the postman PEI. Have you noticed how the bodega has been empty? No deliveries, and there's no edited footage of the At Hardy Girls up yet. Hashtag fake news. Hashtag eyes open. Hashtag don't trust the feed. Benny Ada Jets replied to the Griff with, I stand corrected. Captions Ghost commented at Red Snow 1, Red Snow 2, at Boozy J. More like the Death Row Breakfast Club. Did I win the internet? Hashtag Death Row Breakfast Club. Hashtag DRBC. And that is the end of chapter 27. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.